Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. If you're new, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. New videos every week so you do not miss a thing. In this video, I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should take it. That's not what this video is for. That would be a whole completely different video. But this video is to give you a better understanding of the process that vaccines go through before they get approved for public use. And hopefully towards the end debunk some of the myths that I've seen over the past few weeks on the internet. Alright, without further ado, let's go. Vaccines are designed with two main things in mind: safety and efficacy. Safety as far as, do you get an adverse reaction from the vaccine that we just designed? And efficacy, does it do what we want it to do? In case of COVID vaccines, most of them that are being designed right now, they're designed to produce antibodies against the S protein that's on the surface of COVID-19. What are antibodies, you may ask? They're there to neutralize, help to opsonize a pathogen, to put it in simple terms. Now, before vaccines get FDA approved for public use, it has to go through preclinical and clinical trials. The preclinical trials is when you use animal models. Let's say you design the vaccine, so you give it to animal first, usually a mouse, to see if it actually works, if it's efficacious, and if it is safe. Now, once those two are determined, and it's like it looks safe on the animals, it looks efficacious, it does what it's supposed to do, then you move to clinical trials. The clinical trials has three phases itself. Phase one. Phase one, you use about 100 people, and they have to be healthy individuals. Mind you just starting to learn about the vaccine. You can't have a whole bunch of people testing it. Now, phase one, you still test for efficacy and for safety. And of course, you check for dosage. How much is too much? How little can you give and still get a desired response? And then when that's done, you move on to phase two. Phase two, you get a larger sample size and you break people into demographics, race, gender, and everything. And then you test it again. And still, you gotta check for safety, efficacy, dosage, everything you would normally do in phase one. When you pass phase two, you move on to phase three. Phase three, you get an even larger sample size, up to 10,000 people. The larger sample size you can get, the better. Let's say it this way. If I tell you a pill worked, I'm like, oh, this pill does this, and I only tested it in 100 people, and it looks like it works. Which one gives you more confidence? Testing it 100 people and saying it works versus testing it in 43,000 people and say, hey, look, it works in that setting as well. In phase three, what I failed to mention, you actually stimulate real world environment. Let's say you give the people the vaccine, but you let them venture out like they were in real world. And some people, of course, will get the placebo. The placebo is pretty much saline solution, or it's nothing. It's not the vaccine. And people wouldn't know. It's a double-blind study where people don't know whether they get placebo or the actual vaccine. When they come back, then you run your data to see if it's effective, if it's efficacious, if it's safe. Then you can proceed and apply for FDA approval, which is where most of the vaccines are right now. Well, a lot of them have been approved for emergency use. By the time this video get released, they all probably be out there ready to be used. Alright, so this is basically how it goes down. Now let's get into some of the myths that I've seen around. COVID-19 vaccine will get incorporated into your DNA. Now, Pfizer used something quite interesting. It's a nanoparticle which is encoded in lipid membrane, right? And then they have the mRNA inside of it. So when you get injected, the mRNA get released into your cell. It does not go into the nucleus. I hope I'm not losing you there. For it to be incorporated into your DNA, it would have to go into your nucleus, the nucleus of the cell, and gets incorporated into the DNA that way. Well, that's not what happens. The mRNA use this your cellular machinery to produce the protein. the S protein, the spike protein, and then it gets presented on the surface of the cell. Now, that initiates an immune response, right? And then from there, you get the production of antibodies. I'm dumbing it down a little bit, but that's in a nutshell what happens. So, for it to be incorporated into your DNA, it would have to go into the nucleus. With Pfizer, Moderna, BioNTech, this doesn't happen. AstraZeneca, on the other hand, actually use DNA. But the DNA, it goes into the nucleus, but it does not get incorporated into your DNA. It only uses your cellular machinery to produce mRNA, then protein, then it's on the surface of the cell, immune reaction, you get antibodies against the S protein. All right. Another thing is, if you take the COVID vaccine, you will get COVID. No, because this could not happen because they do not use any part of COVID. They manufacture the mRNA that's similar to that of the spike protein and COVID-19. But they did not use any specific part. It's not an attenuated vaccine. It's not a live vaccine. No, so you could not get COVID because you had you had the vaccine. I want to say this also. These vaccines are given in 2 dosage. For Moderna, as from 0 to 28 days, you get the second dose. But from that initial period, you had the first dose. 14 days later, if you show symptoms of COVID-19, then you have to go back and, of course, get tested. Same thing goes with Pfizer, but it's 0 to 21 days. And from 7 days after the initial inoculation, if you actually have symptoms, then you have to go back and get tested. AstraZeneca, on the other hand, again, is a little different. Even if you do not show any symptoms, they still want you to go back and get a PCR test. Because, of course, it's interesting because you could be asymptomatic and they don't know it. So I think they have an even bigger safety net in that sense. Because even if you're asymptomatic and you do end up catching COVID after you get inoculated, then they would also know and start isolating and taking all the proper protocols. But like I said from the beginning, this video is not intended to pressure you to make sure you go and run and start getting COVID vaccine. It pretty much gives you an understanding of what the process is like. It's not just some random stuff they put together. Of course, I get why people are skeptical. I get why people will feel like it's too fast. But then again, too fast doesn't mean bad, and too slow doesn't also mean bad. It could have taken 5 years and still be crap. So the thing is, I think people need to do their own research. Stay alert, like watch what's going on. Don't just click on some random videos and be like, oh wow, it's gonna turn you into a snow bunny. It's gonna, I don't know if that's the thing. It's gonna do this, it's gonna do that. When the people that are saying that, you don't know where they're getting this information from. It could be anybody, really. So if you're really skeptical and you're unsure, just keep doing your own research. Keep staying on the side of science. Don't get overwhelmed with the sheer information and misinformation on social media about the vaccine. At the end of the day, we're in this pandemic together and we have to find our way out of it. All right, so be careful out there. COVID is real. It's still there. Gotta see the result. We gotta wait and see. So stay happy and healthy. I'm out.